Welcome in to the Arkansas Sports Network's Hometown Sports Football Preview, proudly presented by Arkansas Tech University, D3 Auto Sales, and by Metcalf Trucking Company. Today, the ASN crew previews Class 5A.
Welcome back into the 5A preview of our Hometown Sports classification previews, and we're glad to have you along as we bring you what we think will happen in 5A in all of the conferences and in the state. We're going to pick our state champions. We're going to talk about players to watch, and we're going to talk you through the conferences and give you what we think will happen here in the 5A. And so we're going to get right to it as we get into the 5A Central. 5A Central, you know, for old heads like me, the 5A Central didn't even exist many years ago. You know, it was 5A West, East, South, and there was four. There's always been four, but Central wasn't there. 5A East, I know it wasn't the North. 5A North, it wasn't. But anyway, all that said, 5A Central is new, and the 5A Central is tough. And there are some really, really good teams in the 5A Central. It seems like every single year now the 5A Central is the best of the conferences. Now, the best team right now is Parkview, two-time defending state champions, but the best conference goes to the 5A Central. It's the deepest. 5A Central houses Maumelle, Robinson, Pine Bluff, Whitehall, Beebe, Searcy, Jacksonville, and Watson Chapel. Now, when you run down that lineup of teams right there, that's a very, very good lineup of teams. And I can just think about the coaches that are there at those schools. Brian Mopp and Todd Escola, Coach Williams over at Pine Bluff.
Coach Patton at Whitehall.
Yes, Coach Patton at Whitehall. And I mean, Coach Patton has won multiple state championships. He's there now for the first time. Mm-hmm. You know, Bobby Bolding was at Whitehall just a couple years ago and did a great job over there and got them going. And so now Coach Patton steps in and does his thing. Justin Bigham moving over to BB. I know he's very excited about what's going on at BB. Zach Clark at Searcy. Zach Clark is a very, very good football coach. So there's a lot of good football coaches in the 5A Central.
Coach Eric Allen at Jacksonville.
Yes. And there's a lot of good 5A coaches there in the Central. And, you know, you're looking at it, Maumelle is a team that a lot of people like this year. Robinson has been that team in the Central that has been kind of at the top with Mills. Mills is moving back down. And then, like I said, Whitehall and Pine Bluff, those two teams right there, that's going to be one heck of a battle there between Whitehall and Pine Bluff. Carson, I'm going to give it over to you and let you tell everybody what you think about the 5A Central.
5A Central is the conference in the state of Arkansas that is the most affected by the transfer portal. Mm-hmm. So Maumelle brings in a lot of guys from CAC. I got to pull it up on my phone here. The first one is going to be Josiah Warrior-Benson. Josiah Warrior-Benson's a 3-star prospect, wide receiver. Last season had 50 catches, 977 yards, 15 scores. And their quarterback at Maumelle is Andrew Bjork. Andrew Bjork's a guy with a rocket arm. Coach Maupin's really high on what he can do. Coach Maupin thinks that this Maumelle team might be the best they've ever had at that school. I mean, he wants this team to set the tone for what they want to do in the future. And then they have Jacob Henry. Jacob Henry's a transfer from CAC. Mm-hmm. Defensive back. He recorded a whopping 187 tackles last season at CAC. Wow. Just a ball stopper.
He was their sixth man on the state championship basketball team that played a lot of point for him.
Yeah, he's really talented guy. Of course, you know, a lot of movement between Robinson and Maumelle. Maumelle's, I think the number was like 20 transfers that they got over the offseason,
that's what I've been hearing.
Or something like that. So, you know, a lot of guys that are going to be able to come in there and make an immediate impact. I want to talk a little bit about Joe T. Robinson, though. Tyson Braden is going to be their quarterback. He's a senior. Last season he was at North Little Rock, and now he's at Robinson. They have a backfield that is made of 2 transfers. Kevin Williams is the running back there. He transferred in from CAC. His dad played in the NFL, I believe. So Tyson Braden, he went 147 of 266, 2,267 yards, 25 touchdowns for North Little Rock in Class 7A last season. He's a guy that a lot of people have high hopes for. Robinson's quarterback last season was Quentin Murphy. Quentin Murphy is now at Parkview. He's a 3-star prospect. I believe he's committed to the Razorbacks. So a lot of movement in this class, but more specifically in the 5A Central. Moving down Pine Bluff, no more Courtney Crutchfield, I believe was his name, was there last season. They had another guy as a 3-star prospect whose name is slipping my mind right now. And then BB, no Keandre Baker anymore. Now he's gone. A lot of guys that are
Dindy is who you're talking about. Austin Dindy.
Yeah. Whitehall, Coach Patton should be putting some things together there. Coach Allen at Jacksonville is optimistic about where the direction of his program is going. And then, like I said, top to bottom, this might be one of the toughest conferences in this class. Maumelle, Coach Moppin told me this might be one of the better or best teams that they've had in the history of that program, and this is the one that he wants to really set the course for the rest of his program and his time at Maumelle.
I know you're a little younger, but you remember Darren McFadden. That used to be called Pulaski Oak Grove, and that's where he played. Now, he's talking overall talent. I would agree. What it sounds like, Maumelle is going to be the most loaded they've ever been right now from top to bottom. A lot of incoming talent has come over there from CAC and the surrounding areas. I have heard 20-ish or more newcomers, and they were already pretty loaded. They already had a good program. Coach Moppin's done a great job there. They're my number one pick. Robinson, getting Kevin Williams is really going to help them. Now, he played running back. I think he played a little receiver as well last year for CAC. Who is it? Sullivan? Is it?
Renolson Sullivan.
Yeah, Renolson. He was their main bell cow, though. So we'll see how they use Kevin Williams at Robinson. He's the starting point guard for CC. I was talking about Jacob Henry a minute ago. That was their 6th man. He was their backup point guard. So that basketball team is going to look a lot different, but they did win a state championship before they dispersed there. After that, Pine Bluff, you can't really. I mean, it's hard for me to not put Pine Bluff in the top 2. I mean, every year I feel like they have a chip on their shoulder that they get kind of picked down some at times. And they prove it on the field year in and year out. They do a lot of good things. Just always talent down there in Pine Bluff. And like you said, Crutchfield's gone and Dindy's gone, but they've still got a lot of guys coming back that did a lot of things for them last year. So I'll go Robinson and Pine Bluff's right there. That one's going to be a toss-up for me. And I do think Maumelle's the clear cut ahead of them. And then Whitehall won 4 games last year. Patton does come in there. Patton been at Boxside, been at Fayetteville. He's got it done at multiple places. It's going to be a really good thing for their program. They can keep him around a while.
Coach Patton actually told me, and I quote, 5A Central is the SEC of AAA high school football. So obviously 5A Central, arguably you could say, is one of the toughest conferences in all of the state. Just star power wise and just how much athletes come from the 5A Central. If we're going, obviously Maumelle, they have so many returning players. They're obviously going to be the major fan favorite, and they're probably going to be my number one pick for 5A Central. In my opinion, though, I've got Whitehall at number 2. I think Coach Patton, he is a championship-winning coach. Won several state titles.
Difference maker.
At Fayetteville, yes, and a major difference maker. And I think he's going to be the key difference maker. They run that spread offense a lot, and that's something that he talked to me about in our interview. So I've got Whitehall at number 2. Pine Bluff is a close number 3, though. Pine Bluff, they're tough. They're going to hit you in the. They're going to hit you in the nose every time and hard. Yeah. So this is a Pine Bluff team that goes to state almost every year. It may be 4th seed, but they go to state every year.
Well, not always. Not always are they the 4th seed, but
true.
I mean, they're. You're saying
it's a bad year if they end up the 4th seed.
Yes.
That's right.
That's how
right.
good they are.
But I'm just saying. So this is a team that's
going deep.
Let's talk. Let's just be real. There are times that they've been down, no doubt about it. But they are going back up right now.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
They have
100%. Especially with their new head coach coming in. So, I've got Maumelle at number 1, Whitehall at number 2. We're going to take Pine Bluff at number 3. It's tough from there. Probably Joe T at number 4, and it's tough. It's tough to pick this. I can't even really tell you a number 5. I would probably go to Searcy or Jacksonville even. It's tough. 5A Central is a really, really tough conference.
Well, in this conference, or in the classification, I should say, the top 4 are the ones that go to the state playoffs. So somebody good is going to be left out. BB, I think, is on the up and up.
Yeah.
Searcy is another team that is going to be a tough out, no doubt about it. Here's the interesting part, and in my opinion, something that plays to the advantage. You got Searcy and Harding Academy in the same town. Searcy's in the 5A Central, and Harding Academy's in the 5A East. Much tougher conference in the 5A Central than the 5A East. No offense to you over here, you Northeast Arkansas fellas. Not trying to say. I'm just saying
it's true though. It's true.
They've been called the SEC I would probably push back on that just a shade, but not much. It's one of the top 3 toughest conferences in the state. I would probably put the 6A West as the top, or maybe
I'd put 7A Central up there.
Yeah,
no, that's very true.
And the 7A West is also back. But anyway, 5A Central's right up there with them. But anyway, with that being said, we've got a really tough conference, and you've got a group of 4, especially a really strong top 4 there in Maumelle, Robinson, Pine Bluff, and Whitehall. And throw BB and Searcy in there as well as teams. And Watson Chapel has had a lot of success throughout the years, and that's another Pine Bluff school.
Yeah, it's odd to see them that low, but they have struggled as of late. So right now it's tough sledding, and you could be a good team in the SEC and be
that's exactly right.
12 or 13. So
that's
8 maybe not be that bad.
Right. So here we are, 5A East. We're going to move on, and I think that we as a group here agree on this one. We've got Harding Academy at the number 1 spot. Now, I think there's going to be some people at Valley View that are going to say, wait a minute, hold on. But Harding Academy and Valley View were on the same field last year, and Harding Academy won pretty easily. And, that's nothing against Valley View, because Valley View.
15-point game.
Yeah.
And you got to think, too, that was a Valley View team that had guys like Carson Turley, Ryan Huff, the university commit, Mizzou commit.
Yes.
So that's a tough Harding Academy team. And Valley View, they've lost a lot of talent, man.
So we like Harding Academy to go a long way in the 5A playoffs. The system there is unbelievable. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Owen Miller was our D3 Auto Sales MVP last year, a guy that's coming back this year with an opportunity to repeat as that guy. 49 touchdowns to one interception last year.
And that came in the state championship.
That came in the state championship game. Owen Miller is unbelievable. I know he's getting some looks right now from Division I, and that kid is a difference maker, and probably why Harding Academy will go a long way into the playoffs.
Yeah. Owen Miller's a guy that's been one of those guys you might throw in there at the top of the state with a Kane Archer and a Grayson Wilson and a Cobb at Pulaski Academy had a really good season last year. And, the list goes on. Arkansas has become a really, really good breeding ground for quarterbacks the last, couple of years, especially now with Kane Archer and Grayson Wilson being some of the top prospects in America. Harding Academy, Valley View, Wynn, Nettleton, Batesville, Brooklyn, Greene County Tech, Paragould. That's what I have as the 8 in that conference. To me, Harding Academy is head and shoulders above everybody else. It's been that way in 4A for some time and 3A before that. And Wynn is a team that's still kind of recovering from that awful tornado that hit them. But Coach Clay Toddy is one of the winningest coaches in the history of Arkansas football.
Yes.
He has over 200 wins. I can't put my finger on the exact number.
And possibly the greatest upset in state championship history when they knocked off Shiloh Christian and the 44-game winning streak that they had there. That was unbelievable, and that was a good job. And Toddy has done a great job since he's been coaching.
People still talk about that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep. To me, these are the top 4, if I'm not mistaken, in Class 5A, right?
Yeah.
So to me, Nettleton's the one that gets that last spot. Batesville playing good football could get it. Then you got Brooklyn, Greene County Tech, and Paragould down there. Those are my 8 in that conference. To me, Harding Academy's head and shoulders above everybody else. Like I said, Valley View is a pretty easy number 2 pick. Wynn and Edelton. Those are my 4 playoff teams. A lot of teams with great facilities, and Wynn is starting to catch up. But I think that Coach Todd is going to get them where he wants them to be and where they've been historically.
Not so fast, no. That's my Lee Corso for you. So I do take Harding Academy as my number 1, but Valley View is right there. And I'm not going to pick against Harding Academy. We've done multiple games with them over the years. Owen Miller is the real deal. He is so much fun to watch. That offense, they talk. If you interview them, they talk about the coaches, and they get together on Sunday and they go through all this stuff and they come up with these great game plans. And Harding Academy, it's all about tempo with them. They'll come out fast. They'll slow it down a little bit when they need to. But Isaac Baker is a guy that he got hurt against Elkins last year, and I don't think he played against Rivercrest in a championship. But he got hurt in the first quarter, and they still were able to overcome all that and get past Elkins and beat Rivercrest. But what I was want to talk about with Valley View a little bit, they won 10 games last year. Think about this: they start out the year, they lose to Harding Academy. First game of the year, Harding Academy, I think they played in their 5th straight state championship game last year in 4A, but they're accomplished. They have arrived. They know how to handle big time situations. And first game of the season is that game where you got a lot of jitters. You have more turnovers usually, that kind of thing. You improve so much from week 1 to week 2. They only beat them 55-40. Valley View was in that game for throughout. And then after that, what do? They just ripped off 10 straight. Guess who they lost to? Shiloh Christian in a competitive game, 42-30 in the second round of the playoffs.
It was a heartbreaker loss.
Their 2 losses were to 2 private schools, 2 of the best private schools. And, that Valley View team is really good. They return about 10 guys, 6 on offense, about 4 on defense. It wouldn't be outside of the rim of things that they could possibly pull up an upset there. But I'm going to go with Harding Academy. Valley View right after them. I think they're a very strong number 2. And after that, I got to go with Wynn. Nettleton, I like what they've been doing lately. They've got some a chance to get in that 3 spot as well. Them and Wynn, it's going to be a good battle. And Batesville's right there behind them. Go ahead and I want to hear what you got to say about Brooklyn. I know you're going to bring them up a little bit.
A little bit. It hurts to say Brooklyn. I'll just start out this. Obviously, it's pretty safe to say Harding Academy will be number 1 in Class 5A East. Valley View will be a definite close second. Valley View, they lost in a heartbreaker to Shiloh last year.
And one of the reasons I didn't bring this up, but I meant to, but one of the reasons that I feel like, even though I think Harding Academy is going to be better than they were, even though they're going up in class, losing Kyler Hoover, he was so dynamic. When I talk about how dynamic Owen Miller is, what he can do running the ball, him and Hoover were a lot alike. They were quicker than they're quicker than they are fast, and they're fast. Don't get me wrong, but they're like those guys you can't tackle on a phone booth. They're slot machine type dudes. And losing him because he was such a big part, and they lost Wyatt Simmons to the Razorbacks. He graduated, going to play linebacker this year for the Hogs. Looking good so far in preseason. That's going to leave a little bit of. I'm just saying, Valley View has a chance that they could overcome Harding, even though I have Harding Academy in very high thoughts.
Oh, and you talk about losses. Valley View, they do have some returning players. Let me think. Andrew Jones, Butch Jones' son, will play receiver. He played a little bit of receiver for them. He's a big returner. I believe Andrew Gartman, I believe is his name. He plays baseball. Obviously, that Valley View baseball team, probably the best team in the state of Arkansas last year. He's going to be playing quarterback. He played a little bit of quarterback last year, mostly played receiver because they had a guy named Carson Turley. Carson Turley was a phenomenal quarterback for Valley View. Right. And we're losing a guy like Brian Huff on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, he's going to go on. He's going to have a great career at Missouri. They lost a pretty big senior in Dax Webb. Dax was a transfer from Brooklyn. He transferred his senior year. So that's a pretty big loss for Valley View. But Valley View and Coach Sean Cockrell, he builds talent at Valley View, and it's a tradition at winning. It's very successful at winning, making the playoffs every year. So that number 1 spot will go to Harding Academy. Number 2, it will be for Valley View. Other than that, I think Wynn barely made the playoffs last year, and especially after the tornado that destroyed their football field. They're still trying to build that back, but obviously Coach Toddy, the most winning coach in the state of Arkansas, he's a phenomenal guy. He's definitely – Wynn makes the playoffs every year. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's the best version of that team or the worst version. They're going to make the playoffs every single year. So Wynn is definite, and I think they're going to do better this year than they did last year. But I probably will put the Nettleton Raiders in that 4 spot. They're going to keep Maddox Hampton, who was a really solid guy for them last year. They did lose downtown T.J. Brown. He was a good receiver for them, but
Xavier Harrell's back for them. He's a good receiver.
So Nettleton, they're going to keep
back.
So Nettleton's going to keep a lot of their star power. I do want to mention though, Paragould, they got a guy named Cole Chipman who played a lot of running back last year for Paragould. Paragould, obviously not the most winning football team in 5A East, but that Cole Chipman kid, he's really, really good, and he's a smash-mouth football player. Obviously, Brooklyn's losing a huge senior class, and a senior class that if Brooklyn was going to go and make a run and for the first time in school history and make the state playoffs, that was going to be the team. I don't see it being the team this year. They keep a guy like Gabe Carter, big play Gabe Carter, great receiver for Brooklyn. I believe Gabe Carter had almost 400 or 500 yards last season. And Hayden Elder will return as quarterback for Brooklyn as well. But that Hardin Academy is definitely going to go number 1 in 5A East. I got Valley View number 2, Wynn number 3, Nettleton number 4.
I want to show some love to an offensive lineman at Harding Academy, Josh Llewellyn. He's committed to Harding University, so recruiting from their own backyard. But he's a big dude, and he will pancake you and lay you out. I mean, he's physical, he's big, he's strong, everything you want in a good offensive lineman. He's a guy that's going to be really, really talented. Looking forward to what he's going to be able to do this season for the Wildcats.
Interesting. Just dates. I like to bring them up. October 4th, Valley View versus Harding at Searcy. Another date for Harding is versus Benton at Searcy as well. So that's going to be a good one. They beefed up their schedule. They're at Marion on September the 6th. So they're going to try to work their way right back into that.
And Marion's, they're going to be. They always are talented. Marion's been a tough team the last few years.
They have. That's going to be an interesting matchup there. 5A South here, we're going, and this is the giant. This is the team right now. The Boulding brothers doing work in the state of Arkansas. You know, a lot of people are saying that Little Rock Parkview is the best team in the state. I mean, you know, last year you could have said a few teams. Fayetteville would have been one of them. Greenwood would have been another one, and Parkview would have been another one. I don't think you could have said anybody else. I'll tell you what we saw last year. Parkview was the fastest team that I have ever seen on a football field in the state of Arkansas, and I don't think that's going to change.
Yeah. To me, overall, in the state of Arkansas, I would put Greenwood ahead of them. It's close. It's very, very close. But with all the transfers that Greenwood got, I would put them over Parkview this season at least. You can't talk about Parkview without talking about Omarion Robinson. Committed to Oklahoma, defensive back. Quentin Murphy's their quarterback. And Coach Boulding said that he's a guy that, you know, probably will play some receiver, maybe some running back at the next level. That's the kind of player that he is. And then you look at Hot Springs, Coach Burnett, he's got something going there. Some people might call me crazy for putting them at number 2. But I think they're the second best team in the conference. Camden Fairview, ever since Buck James has been there, they've been a pretty solid program. And Lakeside's a team that has a little bit of a rivalry now with the Hot Springs Trojans. But, you know, a lot of really talented teams in this conference. Magnolia is a team that's got a pretty good history. Arkansas High, Texarkana, you know, Alex was saying they have some fantastic facilities over there. So, a lot of really good teams and a lot of really storied teams in this conference, and then of course Arkansas High with their facilities. You know, you never know where they could come out of nowhere.
Coach Adam Kirby over at Magnolia, I think that they've got a lot of good energy going on at Magnolia right now. He coached at Captain Shreve. They went 9-2 last year at Captain Shreve in Louisiana. And they got a district championship there. He's coached in college. He's coached in high school. I got to sit in on one of his meetings. I was really impressed with Coach Kirby there at Magnolia. Got a lot of good energy going. I will give you a little pushback. I think I would probably put Camden Fairview ahead of Hot Springs because Camden Fairview, I think, carries a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. Last year, I felt like they definitely did, making it all the way to the semifinals. They're a good football team. I mean, if there's anybody that can line up and actually play with Parkview, at least for a little bit, it's Camden Fairview, but just because they have the athletes to kind of get out there and mix it up with them. So I like Camden Fairview at number 2. I think Hot Spring is on the up and coming.
Yes.
I think you got Magnolia, Hot Springs, Lakeside. Those two battle it out for the 4th spot in that conference.
Yeah, I was able to interview Coach Nick Vaughn over at Camden Fairview. I'm really excited about them. They've been right there. They're in a tough conference. They got Parkview. I mean, what do you do with that, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to break through there. I do have them as my number 2, right above Hot Springs as well. I have Hot Springs coming in at 3. Lakeside and Magnolia kind of battling out for the 4th spot. Magnolia, new coach Adam Kirby coming in. He was at Captain Shreve in Louisiana, Shreveport. Went 9-2 last year. So good guy comes in. He feels like there's a lot of tradition. They're a place that wants to win. Magnolia has always had some studs come out of there.
Been an option team the last couple of years.
I want to say J.J. Jones, linebacker for the Razorbacks, was out of Magnolia years ago. They've always had some really good guys. That was back in the 90s. Parkview, though, just a juggernaut right now. The Bowden brothers have it going on. They have just so much talent offensively, defensively, so much speed on the field. They've got guys that could start and be all-state players that barely get touches. That's how good and talented they are. There's no way any of these teams are going to break free and beat them in the conference. That's just my opinion. It would take
a rash
5
of
turnovers, swine flu, a combination of COVID, things like that. And I didn't think I'd ever say COVID again on a broadcast, but thank God we're past that for the most part. No, I got Parkview, Camden Fairview. I really like them. Their quarterback, Daryl Juni, they call him, Atkins. He's a stud back for his 3rd year, I believe. He's a dual threat guy, can run. Haygood, a good running back. They're really loaded. I think this year they're going to take a giant step forward. Ought to go pretty deep in the playoffs as a 2 seed, in my opinion.
5A South is a fun conference, man. Obviously number 1, I got the University of Parkview at number 1. Obviously, Coach Brad Bowling, man, he's dominated, and he's had a dominating championship-winning team for the last 2 years. This Parkview team, they're coming off of they're coming off a year where they only, on average, they allowed 10 points scored for the opposite team. Yeah. And they're coming off where they almost scored. They averaged on a given Friday night at almost 50 points a night. That's just unheard of. So obviously Parkview at number 1 for me. I probably would go Camden Fairview number 2. Obviously you talked about Coach Kirby coming in. You said he came in from where?
No, Kirby's at.
You said that was Magnolia. Excuse me.
But it's Coach Vaughn, Nick Vaughn,
yes,
over at Camden. Vaughn, I'm really high on him. He's been there about 3 or 4 seasons now. He was with his name is escaping me. Scott. He's at Cabot now.
Scott Reed.
El Dorado. Yeah, Scott Reed. He was under his tree. Nick Vaughn is a guy that the team looks up to. They respect him. I would say he errs on the disciplinary side. He's that type of coach. He's not going to put up with a lot of nonsense, but he's not like a tough dude. Don't get me. He's not like hard to get along with or anything. But the kids respect him and play hard for him. They're going to be hard nosed, and he's in a perfect place because where they're at, they've got the athletes and just the culture in place for good things to happen for a long time there if he stays there.
And I believe Camden Fairview, they have 5 returning players.
I don't know off the top of my head.
It's either 5 to 7 returning players.
It's about half the offense.
I feel like Camden Fairview, they have a really good chance to do really solid this year. Especially, I think they have actually a good chance to make a semi-decent playoff run this year. Maybe even semifinals.
I agree.
So I've got Camden Fairview at the number 2 spot. We kind of talked about it. I think Magnolia could be a good number 3 spot.
Hot Springs is really tough. Their offense was really special last year.
I might have to change that then. Is it the Hot Spring Lakeside?
No,
were
just
saying?
the Trojans.
Just the
Hot Springs,
Trojans.
yeah.
Well, yes.
And Lakeside's not bad. The Rams.
They're not bad either. And neither is Arkansas High School.
Yeah.
I don't see Arkansas High School making the top 4 this year. So if it was up to me, I've got Parkview number 1, Camden Fairview number 2. Probably Hot Springs Trojans number 3, and man, it's a toss up for number 4. I've either got Lakeside or Magnolia.
Yeah, and Hope down there at the bottom with DeQueen. Hope lost one of their top players. I think he went to Prescott.
Yes, he did.
Was it the wide receiver?
I think so. I know. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think that's all we got for the 5A South. It's Parkview, and then everybody else is chasing them. I think Camden Fairview's right there. Hot Springs, that's going to be close.
And I think the difference between Parkview and Camden Fairview is also going to be like, wow. You know what I mean? That's number 1 and 2, but I think the difference with Parkview is going to be shocking.
Grand Canyon size.
Yes.
Right. Parkview is definitely one of the very top programs.
And they were the first team to knock off Bryant outside in 5 years, and over 5 years, inside of Arkansas.
Yes.
Well, let's move on to the 5A West. That 5A West used to be the power. In the 5A.
Greenwood, Alma days.
Yeah, definitely. It's changed a little bit, but still very good football teams there in the 5A West. Greenbrier moving back from 6A back to 5A. They've been in 5A for years. 5A West team entrenched there for many, many years. Farmington comes in. You've got them at number 2, Harrison, Morrilton, Valonia, Alma, Pea Ridge, and Clarksville. One of the things that sticks out to me about this conference is the evenness of all of the teams. I mean, really, most of it, you could probably say the top 7 or even 6. You can probably see one of those teams knock off another one of those teams at any given time. And so, anyway, a lot of good teams there in the 5A West. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, Greenbrier's the team to beat to me. I know that Coach Tommy Tice goes over to Farmington, and he's been around the block. So is Coach Randy Tribble at Greenbrier. He's really knowledgeable about the game, and when I talked about him, he knows how to coach. He knows how to coach up football players. He's really passionate about coaching kids at this level, and I really have a lot of respect for that program. And talking to him and Farmington, I know that Jaran talked to Coach Tice over at Farmington, so I'm sure he can give us a little bit more insight on what he talked about with Coach Tice. Of course, I think that interview is out on our YouTube channel now. And then Harrison, Coach Keelan, Harrison's a team that usually has a playoff expectation every year. And a couple of years,
Tommy Tice.
a couple of years ago, I remember they had a running back named Gabe Husky, and he was built different. I mean, they churn out guys like that every single year. And Morrilton, Coach McNabb over at Morrilton, a couple of years ago, they had Jacoby Criswell at quarterback, and he knows how to coach. He knows how to coach talented players as well.
Yeah.
And talking with him, he's really optimistic about the direction of his program, and thinks that the community is really rallying around this team this season. So I put Morrilton in that final playoff spot. Valonia has Coach Ashcraft. Coach Ashcraft has been a winner everywhere he's been. But was at Conway as a head coach. And to be honest with you, that's the extent of my memory of Coach Ashcraft. But I remember him being at Conway and being a really good coach there. And he was their AD for there until recently. And when he took that job at Valonia, he told me, he's like, I just had to get back into coaching. So this is a guy who has a lot of passion for coaching. And Alma, obviously a blue blood program, and they've had some teams in the past that were really, really good. And then moving down to Pea Ridge, Clarksville, those guys, maybe we'll see surprise there. But to me, I would have a hard time finding anybody who would argue with the top 4. Valonia, maybe you could throw in there. Alma, maybe you could throw in there if they have a better season, but than they haven't had in the past few years. But to me, I like that top 4 a lot.
Yeah, I do too. I like that top 4. It looks good. And again, you're talking about perennials in that conference: Morrilton, Harrison, Greenbrier, especially. Farmington has moved up recently from the 4A to the 5A. They're going to be a 5A school from here on out, I think. I think they even moved up in basketball now.
All sports have moved.
They're probably 6A and another 4.
They're a victim of the Northwest Arkansas Great Migration.
Exactly.
People moving in there.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
industrial
anyway,
buzz.
so that conference, in my opinion, is very wide open. I think that there's a lot of movement that could happen, especially amongst the top four. You got a lot of good coaches in that conference as well, and really up and down. I mean, there are a lot of good football coaches in the state of Arkansas. A lot of people around the United States recognize this. I know one of the things that Bobby Petrino said at the last coaching convention was that hey, we have seen the level of coaches step up here in the state. All right, let's move on here. We're going to talk about a few players to watch. Oh,
Neither one of us.
what about why?
It just happens sometimes.
It's my fault. Here,
We talk a lot on
It's that right. Every
everybody.
time we get to the end, I'm like, oh, let's go. Let's move on. Anyway,
You want to go first? You want me to take it?
No, you go ahead, man.
You sure?
Yep.
Okay, so
Because I'm probably going to agree with you.
all right, so 5A West. I think what they're all pretty excited about is Shiloh Christian has moved out of there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's a big deal for all these teams. They feel a lot better about their potential to win the conference this year because Shiloh was so good last year, and they're going to be good this year. I have Farmington just ahead of Greenbrier, and the reason I have that is because Greenbrier's quarterback was going to be their 3-year starter. He transferred to Texas unexpectedly kind of thing. So I think that even though Greenbrier's dropped them down from 6A, so they're kind of battle tested a little bit, they're sharpened, I think that will give Farmington the nod. Farmington has a lot of guys coming back. Farmington really was a lot better than a lot of teams. Like they kind of snuck up on you a little bit last year.
Yes.
To play, I mean, they won a conference. Or they?
Yes.
So
7 wins last year.
Because they were they not in here with Shiloh in there because
They beat Shiloh last season.
yeah they
Yeah.
beat Shiloh. That was the huge upset at the end. No, yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
beat
it was
Shiloh.
a huge upset, and so they ended up winning the conference. And I think this year with Tice there, Tice has just got a wealth of knowledge. I interviewed him. He's on top of his game. I mean, he looks really good. He everything he was saying, but just he has a feel for it. And he was there. He kind of worked with the radio. He's around football a little bit. His daughter lives not far from there, and was she at Rogers? I want to say she's like a principal or something over there. So he's kind of had his pulse still around the game, even though he's been out for a few years. I really like Farmington, what they got coming back, but Alma, I actually have a little higher than y'all. I do like Harrison in the 3 spot, but I think I'm going to go with Alma all the way up in the 4 spot. If you look at Alma's record last year, they beat Farmington, the conference champ, by 21 points. They lost to Shiloh pretty badly, and then they lost to Harrison only by 4. That was their 2 conference losses were Harrison by 4. Shiloh took care of them pretty well. And then they lost pretty badly to Parkview in the first round, but you could say that about anybody that played Parkview. So I'm going to put Alma up there. I got Farmington, Greenbrier, Alma, Harrison. That's my top 4.
I agree with you with your number 1 position. I got the Farmington Cardinals up there at number 1. Tommy Tice, brand new head coach coming in for them this year. They're going to keep Aiden Lester from last season, who threw for over 1,300 yards last season. He's only going to get better, and I feel like this Farmington team, with the huge win over Shiloh. First of all, just even beating Shiloh is a big deal on its own. And if you beat them in volleyball or football, it's a big deal. So, especially, and I bet that felt good for that Farmington crowd. I've got a best friend who went to school at Farmington, and he just told me that just how big of a deal that was that they finally got to beat Shiloh. Obviously, and then they would win the conference.
They're loaded at running back as well. They got Luke
Yes.
Elsig back. They got another guy. His name escapes me that had some good production last year. I like Farmington, but Greenbrier, I mean, they're right there.
Yes, and they're right.
Extremely well coached. And
They're my number 2 for sure. It's really hard toss-up, but man, Farmington, they just sound really good this year. I mean, it's
top-notch facilities.
Yes. Oh, yes. Farmington High School is a very beautiful place. Other than that, though, I'll probably put Harrison and Morrilton at the number 3 and 4 spot.
And let's look at some players that we can talk a little bit about the D3 Auto Sales MVP Award in the 5A. One of those, Monterio Elston, is a guy that sticks out to me. One of the most explosive players in the state of Arkansas. I'll tell you another one that I think is going to really get some headlines this year, especially in that running game. I like Cameron Settles there at Parkview.
Yes.
We've seen him over the last 2 years felt like he wasn't used as much last year, but I think this year he's ready to have a breakout season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Monterio Elston, I believe, is the guy that Coach Boulding told me. He's just give him the ball and go. He's that kind of player. Just you don't have to coach that. It's just natural talent that you can just give the ball to him and let him go score. To me, Owen Miller is a guy whose name you'd throw in there. 49 touchdowns and 1 interception speaks for itself. And he's a pretty good dual threat quarterback too. He can score on the ground. I would throw in maybe some guys you could throw in there would be Maumelle, some of those guys that transferred in. Josiah Warrior-Benson should have a pretty good year. Can he keep up with those guys from Parkview? Not sure. The new quarterback from North Little Rock that went to Robinson should be pretty good. Kevin Williams at Robinson should have a pretty good season. And then to me, the two guys that I would put as offensive and defensive player of the year in this class would be Owen Miller, quarterback, Harding Academy, and defensively I'd put Omarion Robinson of Little Rock Parkview as the best defensive player in this class.
I also think Quentin Murphy, also the Little Rock or the Joe T. Robinson transfer that's gone on to Parkview. I think he actually has a good chance too this year.
Yeah, I really like Owen Miller. I'm high on the kid. He won our D3 Auto Sales MVP. He's a great interview. Every time you talk to him, very knowledgeable. His footwork doesn't get talked about enough. The guy can really run with the ball. He makes all the passes. He's a super special kid. So I've got him. Elston, you always got to say, I think you brought him up, and then Robinson on the defensive side especially. They're all freaks. Cameron Settles, another guy. Parkview, I mean, that's 3 guys from Parkview. I'm trying not to name all the Parkview guys. Nick Abrams at Joe T. Robinson, another running back. They'll go with Kevin Williams. So they're going to be loaded in that backfield over at Joe T.
It's going to be a fun year in the 5A as we move forward. Well, it's always a fun year. It's fun. High school football is fun, and a lot of depth in the 5A beyond Parkview. While Parkview is obviously the odds-on favorite when it comes to this, there's still a lot of good football to be played that's behind them. And I can guarantee you, the folks at Maumelle, they're not laying down for Parkview. The folks over at Whitehall, they're not laying down for Parkview. Pine Bluff, not going to lay down for Parkview. So Robinson, same way. They're going to challenge. Now, is it a stiff challenge? Well, we'll find out. We'll find out if it is or not. But this Parkview team is very good, but there's a lot of good football to be played in the 5A.
Yeah, my sleeper team would be the Win Yellow Jackets to me.
Oh, wow.
That's a team. Coach Toddy, I have a lot of belief in what he's been able to do the last few years there and rebuilding that program. I think he's going to be off on a good foot this season, and they're my sleeper team to maybe make a deep run in the playoffs.
Anybody else before we go?
I've got Little Rock. Obviously going all the way this year. I've got Parkview winning. Sleeper team, I wouldn't even call them a sleeper team. This is just a team that if it wasn't Parkview that I could see winning, Farmington.
Okay.
So
that's a good one. Camden Fairview, I'm going to throw them in there. Who else? There was somebody I was thinking about a minute ago. I do think Alma is going to have a good year. I don't know if they're good enough to win state, but I do think they could get in that second or third weekend of the playoffs. So that's probably what I'm going to say right there. But Parkview definitely overall is the team to beat, and I don't see anybody doing it.
5A state championship pick on 3. 1, 2, 3. Parkview.
You're going to Hollywood. Oh, I'm sorry. Wrong show.
University of Parkview.
Okay,
as
so
Alex
said. let's take a little bit or give a little bit of suspense. Who does Parkview play in the finals?
Hard to argue with Harding Academy.
Harding Academy or Farmington, in my opinion.
Okay.
I feel like Harding Academy. I'll throw Maumelle in there.
True, that's a good one.
I think Hot Springs could make it.
Yeah,
Maumelle has a great chance. Yeah. That's a good pick.
I'm stuttering. I wonder why you say win as well. I know you talked about Coach
Toddy. Yeah.
But, I mean, that's
they always have good athletes, and if Coach Toddy can put all that together, I know they've been struggling. They've had some guys go to cross county.
Yeah, and they've lost a lot of talent.
That's the question. That's the question to me about win is how many end up at cross county.
With what happened with the tornado there, it would be a really special, cool story if they made a deep run.
It would.
All right. Well, we're going to move on, and we do appreciate you watching our 5A preview. We will move on. We got 6A, 7A coming up as well. If you haven't already saw our 2A, 3A, 4A previews, go back and watch those as well. It's almost high school football time here in the state of Arkansas. We got you covered right here on ASN. We also want to remind you of our ASN Classic. Buy tickets for it September the 13th at Burkle Field and Thone Stadium at Russellville at Arkansas Tech University. The number 1 team in the 4A, the Warren Lumberjacks, taking on the number 4, 5, 3, whatever, top 5 team in the state in the Elkins Elks. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll see you next time right here on one of the Hometown Sports classification previews right here on ASN.
Thanks again for joining us on the Arkansas Sports Network's Hometown Sports Football Preview. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Arkansas Sports Network on YouTube to catch more previews and all the latest updates on your favorite teams. It's the ASN Classic, Elkins versus Warren, September the 13th. Tickets are available at the link in the description.